subscribers, it's Carrie with a Pinch of Salt, and I am going to show you January's subscription box. I did not pack a box. I just thought I would show you with the pieces that I have some scraps saved. Some are not the oh so perfect ones, so I put those usually to the side for me to show you the example with, because I can work with them. This month's kit obviously is the lantern with the welcome sign, and then you have the little stand for it. We did put a votive in for you. I added some greenery to mine. You could get that at Hobby Lobby, the dollar store. It's just literally like a little sprig of greenery, but that's what it looks like. So you have your 4 sponges, you have a glue, your instructions, which I tried the best with. You've got your Home Sweet Home on the back side. You do have a piece of sandpaper. Then you have your welcome sign. Can be painted either way. It can go horizontal or vertical. Mine's vertical in the picture, but it will work either way. You can put it however you would like it. Doesn't have to be exactly like mine. You could do the welcome on the top and the house on the bottom if you wanted to do it horizontal, or you can do it vertical like the picture. Either or, it doesn't matter. You have 4 sets of legs, so 2 each for each of the posts of the lantern. You have your bottom piece. This is the top of the lantern, but it has the holes underneath to put the other pieces of the legs in. You have 4 of these little pieces that will get glued onto the top of the lantern like so. And then the handle, which goes in between, and then the square part for the top, just like this. That's how it works. It's not so bad. The only hard thing is the legs can be a little tricky to get glued in. So I thought I'd show you the way that I did it to help out with that a little bit. You have red paint, white paint, brown, and black. I painted mine black. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do kind of what the example shows. So we'll start with the big square. This is the bottom piece, so it doesn't need to be painted. This is the piece for the top that will be painted, because this is what we'll show. So I'm just gonna put a little bit on there, and then I just kind of swipe it. When I'm painting like these bigger pieces like this, instead of trying to just dab it on, I just swipe across it. Depends on how much paint you want on there. If you want the wood grain to show through, you could do it really lightly. And sometimes the grain will show through. It won't look like fully black, but that's okay. It depends just on however you'd like it. Okay, so I've painted this whole square black. You don't need to paint this bottom piece. I'm gonna go ahead and glue this. I have an open glue, so I'm just gonna go ahead and use a little bit of this. I would just do a couple dots. Doesn't need a whole lot because it is super glue. It will glue your fingers together, so be super careful when you're gluing it. Make sure that it's lined up exactly the way it needs to be, and then set it to the side. Then we'll go ahead and do the top of the lantern. So this piece you will not have to paint, because you'll just see the underneath of it. This top piece, you will paint that. You could, since you don't have to paint on these squares, you could glue your pieces down and then paint, but then you do have this little piece here. It's gonna probably be covered up, but just paint around the edges. Little bit of paint on the sponge. I'm just gonna go around and paint, because this, like I said, in the center, it's gonna be covered up where those squares are scored out, those score lines. So whenever we like laser cut and we put those lines in to kind of help guide you, those are called score lines. So we'll just paint this part here. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just glue this on. Same thing, just a few little dots. Glue it, make sure that it's even, and then set that to the side. And then the legs, I would glue the legs together so they will go just like this. There's a little hollow hole in this one, that's why I kept that to the side. So I would glue the legs together. Little bit goes a long way, so you don't need a ton. I just put a little bit on. Make sure that they are lined up even as well, because you want these to fit in the holes perfectly. Just hold it on there for just a few seconds and it should glue. I would glue all the legs together And then I would go through and paint the legs. So kind of have almost everything painted before we go and start gluing the whole lantern together. So legs go just like that, and set that to the side. And then I'm gonna go ahead and glue the rest of the legs. Okay, now that I got all the legs together, it's really important that you keep these as fit as you can. So when they go into the holes that they're even. So carefully, without the glue coming out the side, I would just go through and make sure that everything is as straight as it can be. So it needs to be flush with the other one, just exactly the same. And then I would go through and I would start painting these. So I'm just gonna go ahead and paint them black. While this is drying, you could go ahead and start working on your welcome sign. So I'll let that dry for just a minute, and then I'm gonna go ahead, well actually I'm gonna paint the top of this, sorry. That way it's dry too, and once I get the other pieces glued on, then I can put this top on. So once this is all glued, I'll set everything to the side, or once it's drying. You also have the little handle. I'm gonna go ahead and paint that as well so that it's dry. So you could work back and forth, you know, get all your pieces painted on one side, let it dry, work on the welcome sign, come back and finish the other side. I'll paint the other side in just a second with that one. And then I'll come to the welcome sign. I'm gonna go ahead and do this frame in black. And if you kind of keep your sponges a little clean, like just keep it like on the edge of the paint, just on the edge of the sponge, you can always cut the end of the sponge off and save them. If you're like working on other paint projects, or if you're adding other colors to your kit, you can always do that. If you guys have other paints and you want to change things up, you don't have to always obviously use my paint. So you can use the sponge and paint, take the tops off and then use it for other colors. The background is going to be white. So it does have the score lines on there. I use just something sharp. I have weeding tools. You can get some at the Dollar Tree. I know that they sell that. Once I paint it white, I will go back in and kind of take something sharp. You can always use a straight pin or a safety pin, just anything that's real, has like a sharp point. And once you paint it, I always go like a lot of paint in like the thicker areas, and then over the score lines, I'll just kind of do it very lightly. So then it's not covered in there, but if you do get paint in the score lines, I'll show you what to do. So I have a little bit of paint, maybe like in the middle of here. I'll just take my weeding tool, safety pin, straight pin, whatever you have, and just kind of clean up the lines. That way the score lines are a little bit better. I do have black paint all over my fingers. So I'm gonna put this to the side. The little house, I'm gonna do brown. You could flop these colors around too. If you wanted to do your lantern in brown, you should totally have enough paint for both. I mean, I literally have not used almost any black paint. There's like just that much left. So there's a ton left. I'm just gonna use a little bit of brown. Set that to the side. And then the heart, I have just a little bit of red in here, enough for your heart. Heart's red, put that to the side. So I'm gonna let the welcome sign dry a little bit. Put the top back on my brown. and my white. I made a mess with it. You could always go over it and dry brush it too, which I can show you guys how to do that if you are not familiar with the dry brushing technique. I know a lot of you guys like to do that, but there's also sandpaper included if you want to rough the sides up a little bit. So this should be dry enough to work with it. So what I would do is look at your picture and make sure that you have the edges at the top. Oh my gosh, I forgot to paint this side. Okay, make sure that you have the top edges just like the picture shown so that it fits into the grooves just like so. It should be, you know, it might be a little loose. I did try to open up the holes a little bit more so you had a little bit of leeway with those. But this is gonna fit in here probably tight because this is maybe like the original prototype I made. I would put like a dab of paint in there, literally like a dab. And then you're going to put this into the holes, just like so. So it's gonna stand up. And then you're gonna do this all the way around. Again, it's super glue. You do not need like a ton of paint. Then I will let this dry. So then I can go to the top of my lantern, okay? Because we're gonna have to flip this over and put this on there, okay? So that is going to dry for just a second. We'll come back over to the welcome sign and we will glue that on while we are waiting for that to dry. Again, make sure it's flush all around the edges. And you can, like I said, do it horizontal. You can do it vertical. I did the other one horizontal, so I'm gonna do this one vertical. Or I did the other one vertical, I'm gonna do this one horizontal. So I'll glue my little house on. Figure out where the middle is. I did not paint my welcome. Very light amount of glue on this. Should be just fine. Get the edges, the edge of the E and the edge of the W, and then maybe just some in the middle. And then the heart. And then I'm gonna set that to the side. So we'll come back to the lantern. So now that we have this all in here, we're going to have to get the top together. If you have other glue that you like to use too, you can use it. I do love this Gorilla Wood Glue, works so great. It just doesn't dry fast. So you definitely have to take your time with this. Make sure things don't move around while you're waiting for them to dry, but it works great. So this is going to fit, all those little top pieces are gonna fit in these little holes. Okay, so once this is all dry, I would flip it upside down like so. You have your top pieces that are gonna line up with this. So put maybe just like a drop of glue into the holes. This can be a little tricky, so just start off with one of them, or you could flip it this way too, if you want to make it a little bit more easier. Some things I feel like are just trial and error. So I got one leg in. Just make sure that your legs are dry from the glue, not the paint so much. This leg in. This is why they need to be glued together perfectly so that they fit in these holes. and now you're in. So I'm gonna flip him over, make sure everything looks good from this end, and my lantern is together. So make sure the glue is dry, obviously, before you do all this. So then you are going to just glue the top back on. So one of these pieces, it's kind of like rounded out on the edge. You're going to put it where the lines are. Hopefully you can still see them. Then add a little bit more glue. Put the second one in there. Then let that dry. I would check and make sure that this can fit in there though, because this is gonna set in here, and then you're gonna go ahead and glue the top piece. Make sure that it all fits under that square too. So I did do this when it was a little wet, just to make sure that it all fits under here. And that is your lantern. There it is. I thought this was a cute everyday piece to put anywhere. You could put it in the kitchen. I'll probably put mine in my bathroom because I always struggle with like finding things to put on my shelf in the bathroom. I just moved this piece and now it's sticking out. Like I said, you've got the little votive in there. Maybe get a little greenery. You could also use this as like a little housing thing, like for Easter, put a little ceramic bird or a bunny in there. Change it out for the holidays and add just a little something different to it. You could always keep the votive in there and then add something else. You know, Hobby Lobby has tons of little pieces that you can add in. So that's that. And then you've got your little welcome sign with your stand that can go on the side. Now, once this is all dry, you could take your sandpaper and you could like rough up the edges if you wanted to. I know some of you like to do that, give it kind of like a distressed look. When it's all dry, I should keep moving this and I shouldn't be, but I just was trying to show you guys that. Dry brushing, if you have not done it before. If you have chip brushes from the past, or these are just Harbor Freight, Dollar General has them. I'm not so sure about Dollar Tree, but you're just gonna get a chip brush or some kind of brush. If I was gonna do this with the white paint, I will put a little bit on my brush, wipe it off on the edge, wipe the excess off of my paper towel, and then just like very lightly go back through and kind of go around the edges. And then that's how you dry brush it. So you have a couple options. You could sand it, you could distress it, you could do both. See how I have the edges like that? I like that look. This is what it looks like when these are hollow holes in there, if you're seeing that white, just because I used some scrap. And then you'll just paint like this. You could do it across the top once it's dry. Always wait till it's dry. But that is how you do that. So I did sand a little bit, and actually I put some white in around the edge, kind of like that look there. So that's how you do it. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. You can not post pictures just yet because everything got mailed out yesterday. I was early this time on getting boxes out, but I'm sure not everybody will have their box for the next day or two. Some of you all are a little farther than others in Florida and Virginia. So give everybody a couple days to get their boxes. I still have some on the porch that need to be picked up. And once I usually give everybody about 7 days, and then we start posting photos for you guys to enter the contest. I pull a name every month. You get your next box free on me, and that's it. So I hope you guys have a fun time creating this one, and I hope you like it as much as I do. And I think it's a great everyday home decor piece, and I'm excited. So thanks so much for being a subscriber, and enjoy the rest of your week.